Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast. I'm your host and beat writer, Brock Vieira. You can check out all of our work at www.si.com/NFL/Rams/on SI, where we drop double digit pieces of content every single day to get you through this off season. So, the biggest story with the Rams right now, and something that we're able to kind of get different perspectives on, is, of course, the future of Matthew Stafford. Currently, Matthew Stafford is enjoying the fruits of his labor. He's nowhere near football. It's believed that he's on vacation with Sean McVay and several other members of the Los Angeles Rams, and he's just enjoying time away from the game. With that being said, until he commits to the Rams, they are unable to proceed with their plans for 2026. So, this podcast is going to address where that situation is, where it can be in the upcoming weeks, and what the Rams want to have done in order to set themselves up for a phenomenal free agency and then into, of course, the NFL draft. The big thing to remember is this $300 million. That is where the NFL cap is going to be at. And that's the expected a number between 300 and 305 to 6 million is where they think the cap is going to fall. And of course, with an expanding cap and of course the expansion of the league expands player value. Now, right now, the Browns have a phenomenal contract with Matthew Stafford compared to some of the other deals. However, there's a belief that he could demand up to, if not more, than 50 million per season. The amount of money the Raiders were willing to offer him last season, should he have jumped ship from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. The Rams are not willing to talk about money yet. The first thing that they want to do is assure that he will come back. It's believed March 1st last year was about the time that the Rams and Stafford reached an agreement after weeks of games that involved Stafford running into Tom Brady up in Montana and McVay and Les Snead allowing Stafford to go out and seek a trade. There doesn't want to be any of those games this time. Both sides is believed to want to come to an equitable agreement regarding Matthew Stafford's future. Of course, Stafford has to commit to it, but the Rams are essentially ready to begin that next step as soon as he gives it a go, and they don't want this to be a long and drawn out process. This is a different different mindset than compared to the off seasons of 2024 and 2025, where of course you had that long drawn out process last season where there was a potential for him to leave, and then the year before where it was essentially established that both parties would be able to proceed in a year to year situation. That was due to the fact that Stafford had gotten up there in age and his production had greatly decreased. That is not the situation this year. Of course, he's going to age another year, and the back problems and some of his general health remain a concern, an overall concern. He also put together a full 17-game season, three more playoff games, and of course, had a phenomenal year where he's likely to win MVP. Therefore, in a situation where the leverage was once split 50-50, now completely resides at Stafford, as the Rams do not have a solution to move forward that will be palatable to the fan base and probably ownership as well. Considering ownership just invested a lot of money into McVay and into Leslie to extend them, getting Stafford back is paramount for those two parties. And of course, as long as Stafford wants to play again, which all indications state that he's nowhere near retirement in a mindset, which could change at a moment's notice. But right now, it's there's no indication that he's going to retire. You would have to assume that he wants to run it back for another year, especially after the Rams have essentially already confirmed Devontae Adams will be back as well. That's the latest going on with the situation. If Stafford does return, and of course he remains at the current rate he's at, the Rams are going to have over $40 million to spend, if not more, depending on what offseason moves they do in terms of cuts, releases, trades, so on and so forth. With that being said, you would have to believe that if Stafford was to return, he would have a say, not power, but say in how that money is spent. Of course, his offensive line is good to go, so you don't really need to worry about that. But you do wonder if the Rams are going to invest a little bit more into depth, especially on the interior offensive line, after both Steve Avila and Kevin Dotson had suffered injuries during the regular season that forced them to miss some games. You also wonder how they're going to adjust the tackle position, considering the fact that we don't know what the future of Rob Havenstein holds, and considering Warren McClendon was a forward backup, that role is no longer available. And of course, DJ Humphries and David Quessenberry are expected free agents. Then you look at the rest of the offense. The wide receiver position is mostly shored up, except for who's going to replace Tutu Atwell, which I still and strongly believe will be USC's Makai Lemon that they'll select in the NFL draft. The tight end room is set. You do have to wait for Tyler Higbee, but you do wonder there is a clear ceiling with players like Colby Parkinson and Davis Allen. And Parkinson, being a veteran player, could be on the move in the next couple of years. Do the Rams want to invest a fair amount of capital, with which either draft or money, into that position in order to give a solid blocking option that can play as an appendix to the line of scrimmage and not be one of those isolated tight ends like a more Terrence Ferguson type player? And then you look at the defense side of the ball. How are the Rams going to build a defense that is going to get better and not put Stafford in the position that he was put in the NFC Championship game? Like the only quarterback in championship game history to, or even I think playoff history, to record the stat line that he did and pick up a loss. You do have to address the secondary. You also have to address possibly losing Aubrey Pleasant as well, as he was uh, requested to be interviewed by the Cardinals, something that I will address in my next podcast. But if you have to replace the type of brain power and manpower, would Stafford be willing to allow more resources to go to that side of the ball to avoid a repeat of last season? Lots of pending questions, no answers in sight. It's going to be a slow and drawn out process. And quite frankly, I think everyone within the Rams is ready to get on vacation. But as this process continues to unravel, and we get to the combine and then owners' meetings, and then eventually we'll strike up a new year with free agency, the draft, going to OTAs, there has to be a lot of excitement around the Rams right now. The fact that Stafford hasn't gone anywhere near the retirement topic publicly is a positive sign. And every day that passes that he doesn't is a continued positive sign. Alongside that fact, the Rams have placed themselves in prime position to give Stafford the best roster he's ever had. Not only do they have the cap space, as mentioned, they still have those two first round picks they have hit historically on their second and third round selections. And then, of course, in the back end of the draft, they can go and fill out some positions or use that as trade capital to bring in some veterans to truly capitalize if 2026 is indeed going to be Matthew Stafford's final year. This has been Brock Vieira for the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast. We'll catch y'all next time. Take care.